Hi, I'm Jay, and I have been tasked from on high with the great cosmic weight of knowing a great deal about LEGO's Bionicle franchise.
Times are dark, and evil rules. Strange canisters drift ashore on the island of Mata Nui. 6 legendary heroes have arrived. These mighty tour must discover the masks of power, defeat evil, and free the island.
If you're like me, and grew up during the era of Bionicle, which first started in 2001, it's hard to believe that the LEGO company was facing financial ruin a little bit back in the late 1990s, but that was exactly the case. There were a couple factors in what saved them, but the one that went on to define my childhood, and those of my entire group of friends as a kid, was Bionicle. The toys took parts from LEGO's Technic line, all based around building robots with moving parts, and created a new line that were essentially LEGO action figures. But they didn't stop there. Bionicle was cool, no doubt, but the success of the series, which became LEGO's second highest selling brand for years, was in their ability to branch out. Bionicle wasn't just LEGO sets. It was also comics published by DC. It was flash animations on their website that told parts of the story. It was short novels in a trio of very ugly movies that went insanely far into the lore. And, of course, it was video games. Bionicle had a few different video games, all working around the basic setting of semi-robotic life forms living on tropical islands, and later in a weird dystopian city, and later under the sea, and later on some sort of Sparta planet. Look, the point is there was a lot to work with. There was a browser-based adventure game, and a couple of console games, including one that was never released, and some Game Boy Advance ones as well. But none of those are the game I want to talk about today. Now, for that, we're going to have to go fast forward a few years to 2006. See, Bionicle always had an inherent coolness to it. It was robots fighting and transforming into better robots, and the stories were about accepting destiny and fighting evil. It was all great. Loved it. Loved it a lot. But in 2006, LEGO decided that they had to make a big push to make Bionicle more cool than it ever had been before. The entire 2006 toy line, marketing campaign, and storyline took things a step edgier than the series had been up to that point.
Gang is on the loose on Bionicle.com.
And that is why we have Bionicle Heroes. In dusting off my copy of this video game, I realized just what a bounty there is of games like this. Toys, movies, TV shows, comics, all other forms of media have had video game adaptations. Of those, the vast majority have been either lambasted or completely ignored. So, it is with great gravity that I have chosen to accept a mission. A mission to play as many of these oft-abandoned licensed games, many of them birthed of the early aughts, as I possibly can. I will play them and study them for your viewing pleasure, and maybe, just maybe, we'll find something actually worth playing. Welcome to the longest licensed voyage. Now, let's talk about Bionicle Heroes.
What are you? Are you our savior?
Oh boy. So this particular Bionicle game takes place on the island of Voya Nui. You can tell it's Voya Nui because the island is shaped like a V. The island has been taken over by the Paraka, a group of 6 big boys with expensive dental care plans, and the game very much wants you to understand that they are the hugest idiots to ever walk the Bionicle universe's shores. Despite this, they have somehow managed to enslave the inhabitants of Voya Nui, turning them into various villains from the franchise. They also have the Mask of Life, an item with full lore complications that go way past the purview of this game, but suffice to say that later on a character does put it on and does become Jesus. So, in the actual canon, 6 Toa, who are sort of the archetypal hero teams of the Bionicle universe, wash ashore on Voya Nui to show the Paraka what's what. But in this game, just a single Bionicle, or perhaps just a person-ass person, I don't know. Let's call them Bionicle Mike. Bionicle Mike washes up, meets this little dude named Balta, and gets handed one of the masks the 6 Toa wears. So, from what I can gather, you are a single boyo who can turn into any member of the team, all of whom have their own abilities and none of whom can strafe. Okay, are you ready? We're gonna get into the thick of it now. So the game opens by dropping you in a hub world cursed by a really bad day-night cycle that just sort of serves as a dimmer switch to make sure you aren't hurting your eyes too much while hurting your eyes by playing this game. You've got a little side stuff, including the Paraka Playground, which we will get back to, but right now it's hero time, so we just can't spare a moment to find out what that is. The game has a level select down in Uncle Paraka's basement, where you can stare each of these awful werewolf grinning monster boys right in their laser-sighted peepers. You have Vazok, who lives by the sea and is mad about it. Thok, who lives up on a mountain and probably just wants to be left alone. Radak, who hangs out in the desert and does peyote. Hakan, who lives in the inevitable result of human climate change. Zaktan, who just wants to save the trees. And Avak, who I guess they couldn't figure out an element for, so he just lives in a badass factory castle that has the most boppin' music in the game. There's also a seventh guy named Vazon, who lives in another basement below the main basement and hangs out with a thing they call a spider, even though it only has 4 legs. Vazon's job is to periodically come and harass you after boss battles, and then leave. Vazon is also the final boss, and has the Mask of Life grafted to the back of his skull, for reasons that we can't get into, or this video would be half an hour longer. Embarking on the quest before you means taking on the abilities and likenesses of the Toa Inika, each of whom has their own special little set of powers. You start each level with just a few of them and have to seek out masks representing the rest of the bunch as you travel, though when I say seek out, what I really mean is try not to trip over because they're friggin' everywhere. For some reason, Bionicle Heroes insists on referring to all the Toa by both their names and colors. I guess they assumed the kids playing this game would have enough reading comprehension to read directions on what colors equal making what things go, but not enough to recognize these 6 nouns in particular. Since they have chosen this tactic though, I shall adopt it as well. The red Toa, Jaller, has a flamethrower and can walk across lava, which is useful maybe twice. The blue Toa, Holly, can walk across water and has a sort of weird continuous water beam. These two are the most useful in literally any boss fight, but we'll get back to that. The green Toa, Kongu, has a shotgun, while the white Toa, Matoro, has a sniper rifle, not that he needs to aim too good, and the black Toa, Nuparu, has the worst weapon in the game, just don't even bother worrying about it. And the brown Toa, Huki, has a rocket launcher. Hold on. What do you mean brown? What's... Okay. Well, at any rate, our chromatically challenged Toa Huki has the esteemed honor of being the only one in the squad who has the power to build stuff, which seems weird given the fact that building stuff is kind of the whole Lego thing, but I'm willing to let that slide so we can talk about this. That's right, you've been watching for like 8 minutes, and I'm finally gonna address this wacky laser eye garbage. Bionicle Heroes slaps you with auto-aim, and when I say slaps, what I mean is slaps you and then drags your head around to wherever it thinks you should be looking. You can't really turn this off or toggle it, it's just always there, and to make matters incomprehensible, you can only strafe while locked onto something and firing. Now, this sounds bad enough, but consider then the fact that only 2 of these guys have continuous attacks that you can hold down a button to continue firing with. So, if you want to sidewalk at all, you have to use one of these 2. Everyone else walks like they're drunk at 2 a.m. and trying to find their way home, but Karen keeps calling them, asking them where they are, and they can't find an Uber, and everything's so confusing. One cool thing about Bionicle Heroes is the amount of stuff in the world that's constructed out of actual Bionicle parts. A lot of it is stuff you interact with, like boxes that you have to trigger open, or gates that you have to also trigger open, but there's even stuff in the architecture too. The enemies are all Bionicle baddies from previous years of the series, as are the other non-Paraka boss battles. And oh boy, it sure is great that they called back to such fan favorites as Nidiki, Nidtiki, Nike, or Rudaka, who has an army of these things, which they also call spiders, even though they have 4 legs. Bionicle, why is wrong spiders a theme with you? The other most prominent sign of Bionicle leaving strewn around this whole game are little gear and connector bits that serve as money. If you've ever played LEGO Star Wars and the like, it's basically the same here. Collect enough money and you enter hero mode! And all the glory that comes with it, including more health and a rockin' theme song that gets real old by the 30th time you hear it. Alright, so far, maybe none of this sounds all that bad. Sure, the lock-on aim is annoying, but at least they put some attention to detail into making this feel like a Bionicle thing, right? But with Hero Mode, we get into the true loop of what this game is. See, Bionicle Heroes, at its core, is all about getting enough money, which you will do quickly, to turn gold, and then go through the level until you reach a fairly large, open-spaced area where you can fight a bunch of evil robots and wrong spiders until you get to a big pile of gold parts. Tap that button, watch as the gold parts turn into one of 3 things, none of which look good, that help clear your path, lose Hero Mode, and onward you go, rinse and repeat 3 or 4 times per level, plus however they show up in some pretty predictable boss fights, and you basically have this whole game. Much like real life, Bionicle Heroes is about gathering enough money to pay off what you need to survive for a while, over and over until the end. Oh god, I think this game is a commentary on capitalism. We sure are hitting a lot for a first episode of a series here. Oh boy! I need a drink. Most of the boss battles are pretty much the same. A lizard with a spear, or maybe some kind of very tall boy, or one of the Paraka themselves antagonizes you at the end of a level. You do the gold thing to whittle most of its health down, then wait for the shields to go down, which just happens every 30 seconds or so of its own accord. This is where Jollar and Holly become your best friends, because you can cheat like I did and just hold down a blast on your opponent until those defenses drop, leaving them face to face with a pillar of fire you've been shooting for so long that you're probably bored of it by now. The boss fights are also curious because the ones that do deviate from the norm are worse for it. One fight starts out pretty cool by having you climb the inside of this tower to get to Rudaka, who is waiting at the top with her army of wrong arachnids. But once you get there, you're stuck in one half of a circular room, firing away as your auto-aim points you to things that are usually only barely on screen. It's a place where the design of the level works against the way Bionicle Mike moves. Bionicle Mike, are you afraid of heights? Is that it? Ah, buddy. Another boss fight with this guy Axon, guess how he got his name, forgoes the hero stuff and just has you chip away at his hearts one by one. This could be okay, but he has so many of them and it takes so long for the shields to drop that it just feels like he's there to waste your time. And that's how most of these encounters feel, really. Compound that with the risk of bugs, like I found when my very first boss fight had to end in a system restart because I killed this tall blue boy and he would not die. Another one got really weird because mid-fight I needed more money to get me up to hero mode again. And the only way to harvest more in the middle of most of these battles is to wait for the boss to summon more regular enemies for me to shred through. But he just wouldn't. He kept skipping around, being green, having thick claws and the wrong number of legs, and wouldn't do anything. His shields were up, but I eventually just took a shot at them out of boredom, and guess what? Getting shot triggers him to call more friends. It's too bad the game teaches you directly and in no uncertain terms not to do that, or this could have been okay maybe. Instead, me and Mid-90s or whatever his name is did a weird, uncomfortable waltz for 15 minutes. You do harvest the boss's heads when you kill them though. Not just, masks or anything like that. No, full and actual heads. So that's pretty alright. As for the Paraka themselves, it's not better. Their fights are about the same as what I just described, just typically with more enemies shooting at you. Get money, use gold, use hero power, break some stuff, make the Paraka look stupid. Did you know the Paraka are stupid? Here's a reminder, the Paraka are stupid. Rinse and repeat, kill them, get your head, fight Vazon and his weird dog, come back to the overworld, maybe upgrade your weapons and health while you're there, which you can get all maxed out by halfway through the game, maybe also buy your Toa's specific powers, which all just give you different things you can hit a button in front of to unlock a room that has more money and maybe a collectible. Tell me, what do you know about recursion? Once you kill all 6 of Lego's big mean tooth men and go down and fight Vazon, he actually has one of the easiest fights in the whole game. His shitty massive cat sinks into the lava and he doesn't really seem to care. He just shrugs as he sinks to his death. Oh well, another day at the office. Then the Mask of Life bursts out of the lava. It doesn't even actually look like that in the toys. I don't know where they got that design. And that's it! The game just ends there, and it really, there's no way to redeem itself after an ending that dumb. Okay, never mind. Look at these credits. This is perfect. Never mind. Game of the year. Game of the year. Hey, game of the year right here. Game of the Year 2006! There are also a couple side things you can go do if you would like to. They include some rooms where you can look at the various Bionicle enemies you fought, and then there is the Paraka Playground. I don't think I need to talk more about that. You've seen all you need to see. At the end of the day, Vaison shrugging as he dies is me. The lava is Bionicle Heroes. Vaison's big idiot goldfish is this channel, I guess? This joke is missing some legs. Bionicle Heroes does have that attention to detail going for it. It's actually really cool that the devs were able to play around with the actual toy parts, and it adds some flavor to the game's world pretty nicely, but it's such a shame then that the act of playing the thing amounts to such a shallow loop of doing the same stuff over and over. Bionicle is a weird world of story and characters that nothing else is really quite like, and it would have been really cool to have a game that actually does something kind of interesting and elaborative upon that. Instead, it's just a loop over and over. You can see the potential strewn all over the floor like a bunch of loose parts. Oh wait, those are money. Gather them up. If you do, you can animate the pile of gold Lego bones blocking your car. And finally, you can get to work. Oh, I hope Mr. Johnson hasn't fired you by now. Bionicle Heroes isn't worth throwing away, but it's also not really worth your time, unless you're a big enough fan of the source material that you're just curious to see what Eidos did with it. For that, it's okay. It's almost a good game. All they needed was some more unique ideas in the building process. Thanks so much for watching the inaugural episode of The Longest Licensed Voyage. Thank you to great graphic designer and good friend of mine, Hannah Joy, for our logo. This first episode took way longer to come out than it should have, but I plan to put them out a little faster from here on out. So sound off in the comments about what games you think the series should get into in the future. I know eventually we're probably gonna have to play some Garfield games or shit like that, so it's all basically gonna be bad no matter what. There's no saving us now that we have jumped in. We're really out of the frying pan and into Vaison's weird volcano apartment now. Thanks also to Riley and Joe, hosts of a lovely podcast I was recently on called Bed, Bath, and Bionicle. Riley calls Joe up one morning a week and talks to them about Bionicle lore as they get ready for work, whether Joe likes it or not. It's a great time, hilarious whether you grew up with Bionicle or not, and I was thrilled to be a part of it. Go check them out wherever you listen to podcasts. But for now, I've been Jay, and yes, my parents' basement is still full of all my old Lego sets. I owe them my life. My parents, not the Lego sets.